My husband left a note saying pack your things and get out. I wrote 2 words under it, and he panicked because I had found the paperwork. My husband left the note in the center of the kitchen table, weighted down by the blue ceramic sugar bowl we had bought on our 10th anniversary. Pack your things and get out. That was all Daniel had written. No explanation, no conversation, no apology, just 7 words in black ink, pressed so hard into the paper that the letters had bruised the page. For a moment, I stood in the kitchen with my purse still hanging from my shoulder and my keys caught between 2 fingers. The house was quiet in the wrong way, not peaceful, not empty, staged. Daniel's coffee mug was gone from the sink, his running shoes were missing from the mudroom, the framed picture of our son, Evan, at high school graduation still sat on the counter, but the little silver tray where Daniel dropped his wedding band before showering was bare. I did not pick up the note right away. That surprised me later. For 26 years of marriage, I had been the woman who picked things up: dirty socks, missed appointments, family emergencies, Daniel's mother's prescriptions, forgotten birthdays, overdue bills, every emotional object he dropped because he assumed I would bend down and carry it. But that evening, I left the note exactly where he had placed it. Then I took out my cell phone and photographed it, once from above, once with the sugar bowl still visible, once with the kitchen clock in the background, showing 6:17 p.m. Only after that did I slide the paper toward me. His handwriting was unmistakable, large, impatient, tilted slightly left whenever he was angry. I knew that handwriting from birthday cards he bought at the grocery store on his way home, from checks he wrote to contractors, from the notes he used to leave on my windshield when we were first married. And he still thought loving someone meant making an effort before being asked. I turned the paper over a blank. I almost laughed, but it came out as a breath without humor. Then I opened the junk drawer, found a red pen, and wrote 2 words beneath his sentence: nice try. I put the note back under the sugar bowl. Those 2 words were not brave, not at first. They were instinct, a small refusal from a woman who had been trained by marriage, motherhood, and middle age to absorb impact before making noise. But the second I wrote them, something important became clear. Daniel expected me to panic. He expected me to cry, call him, beg, demand answers, drag a suitcase down the stairs with my dignity folded between sweaters. He expected movement, chaos, a wife scrambling to understand why the ground had opened beneath her feet. Instead, I made a copy that was my first protection. My second was walking through the house without touching anything. The front hall looked normal. The mail was stacked on the console table, a county water bill, a flyer from the church rummage sale, a glossy postcard from a real estate agent promising to unlock hidden value in your home. In the living room, the couch pillows were arranged the way Daniel arranged them when he wanted to prove he had done something domestic. Too straight, too formal, like props in a room where no one actually lived. Upstairs, our bedroom closet told a cleaner story. His navy suitcase was gone, 3 dress shirts missing, the grey sport coat he wore to client dinners, his second pair of brown leather shoes. Not enough for a permanent move, but enough for a few nights away. On his nightstand, the framed photograph of us at Lake Michigan remained in place. I looked younger in it, sunburned across the nose, leaning into him with my whole body. Daniel had one arm around me and one hand pointing toward the water, as if there were always something better just beyond where we stood. I opened the top drawer. His passport was still there, so he had not left the country. Not that I believed he would. Daniel Whitaker liked comfort too much for dramatic escape. He liked hotels with rewards points, familiar restaurants, and the illusion that he was spontaneous because he ordered the second cheapest bottle of wine in the bathroom. His toothbrush was gone. His electric razor was gone. His prescription antacid remained. That tiny detail stopped me longer than the note had. Daniel never forgot his antacid. For the past 5 years, he had carried those pills everywhere, blaming stress, late dinners, and your lemon chicken. Claire, delicious but dangerous. If he had packed in anger, he might forget them. If he had packed with help, someone else might not know. I photographed the medicine cabinet. Then I went downstairs and checked the garage. His car was gone. My Subaru sat alone beside the recycling bin, on Daniel's workbench. A stack of folders had been shifted. I knew because I was the person who dusted that room twice a year while pretending not to resent it. The folder labeled house, mortgage tax was still there, but it was not pushed back flush with the others. It sat half an inch forward. I did not open it, not yet. I had spent 26 years learning Daniel's rhythms, He liked to leave traps disguised as invitations. Ask me what's wrong. Claire, look in my phone. Claire, open the folder. Claire, then, when I reacted, he could make my reaction the problem. I stepped back, my phone buzzed in my hand. For one wild second, I thought it was him. It was our son, Evan. Mom, did Dad say anything weird to you? The words on the screen made my mouth go dry. I typed carefully. What do you mean? 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. He texted me this afternoon, said if you called upset, I should stay out of it because you're going through something. I read that twice. Daniel had prepared our son not with facts, with doubt. I sat down on the bottom step because my knees had begun to understand before the rest of me. Evan was 19, away at Michigan State for his first year, still young enough to believe both parents were solid walls even when one had started quietly removing bricks. I would not drag him into the first hour of this. I wrote back, I'm okay. Don't worry tonight. I'll call you tomorrow after class. Mom, what happened? Nothing. I can't handle. The moment I sent it, I knew I had made a promise to myself, not to him. Nothing I can't handle. I went back to the kitchen. The note waited under the sugar bowl. My words sat beneath Daniel's like a small door he had not expected me to open. Then another sound came from my phone, a calendar alert. Daniel and I had shared a family calendar for years because he claimed he could never remember dentist appointments, Evan's school events, or his mother's cardiology visits unless I placed them directly in front of him. Most of the time, he ignored it anyway. The alert read, dinner, VH 7:30 p.m. Birch and Vine. I stared at the initials VH, no last name, no explanation. Birch and Vine was not a client restaurant, it was a quiet place downtown with low lighting and high prices, the kind of restaurant Daniel said was too fussy when I suggested it for our anniversary. I opened the calendar entry created by Daniel Whitaker, modified yesterday at 11:42 p.m. There was an address attached, not Birch and Vine's address, a house on Marigold Court, 12 minutes from ours. That was the first detail I could not explain, and it was the first one Daniel had forgotten to hide. I slept in the guest room that night, not because I was afraid of our bedroom, but because I wanted to know whether Daniel came home. He did not. At 2:13 a.m., I woke to the furnace clicking on and reached automatically toward the other side of a bed he was not in. Habit can be cruel that way. It asks for the person before memory has time to warn it. By morning, I had made 3 lists, not emotional lists, practical ones, what I knew, what I suspected, what I had legal access to check. That third list mattered most. I worked in the financial aid office at a community college, which meant I spent my days helping people understand forms they had ignored until the consequences arrived. I knew the difference between fear and documentation. Fear was loud, documentation waited quietly in drawers, inboxes, and account histories. Before Daniel's note, I would have described our marriage as tired but intact. We were not romantic in the way we had once been. At 52, I no longer expected Daniel to pull me into the pantry just to kiss me while pasta boiled over. He no longer brought flowers unless his assistant reminded him of Mother's Day. We had become ordinary. I thought ordinary seemed survivable. Daniel was 54, a regional sales manager for a building materials company. He traveled across Michigan and northern Indiana, visiting contractors, supply warehouses, and developers who wore fleece vests with company logos. He was charming in public, impatient in private, and very good at making responsibility sound like criticism. Claire, not everything needs a system, he used to say while asking me where I kept the insurance cards, the tax documents, his mother's Medicare supplement information, and the password to the utility account. We lived in a 2-story colonial outside Grand Rapids, in a neighborhood where people waved while pretending not to know whose teenager had backed into whose mailbox. The house was worth about $420,000. According to the postcards realtors kept sending us, we still owed around $168,000 on the mortgage. The house was not grand, but it was ours at least. I had believed that after Daniel's note, belief became something I no longer trusted unless a record stood behind it. At 8:05 a.m., I called in sick. My supervisor, Maureen, heard something in my voice and did not ask questions. Take the day, she said, whatever it is, take the day. I thanked her, then opened the laptop on the kitchen table beside Daniel's note. First, I checked the shared checking account. Nothing dramatic at first glance. Mortgage payment, grocery store, gas station, Patricia's pharmacy payment. Patricia was Daniel's mother, 78. widowed in every way except legally because Robert Whittaker still lived in the same house but had long ago surrendered all domestic authority. For the past 4 years, I had paid about $800 a month toward Patricia's prescriptions, groceries, and occasional emergencies that always arrived after Daniel said his bonus was delayed. I had not minded at first. Family helped family. That sentence had cost me more than money. Scrolling through the transactions, I saw the first odd charge, Birch and Vine, $214.83. 3 weeks earlier, Daniel had told me he was in Lansing that night at a contractor dinner. I clicked the transaction. The card used was not the joint debit card, it was Daniel's business rewards card, paid from our personal account twice a month because he said reimbursements were messy and easier to reconcile later. I went back 6 months. Birch and Vine appeared 4 times, a boutique hotel downtown appeared twice, a florist I had never received flowers from appeared 3 times. I did not cry. I got a legal pad, dates, amounts, merchant names, Daniel's stated location when I could remember it at 10:20. My phone rang. Daniel. I watched his name pulse on the screen, then I let it go to voicemail. He called again immediately. I let that go too. A text arrived. Did you see my note? I looked at the paper under the sugar bowl, then I typed yes. 3 minutes passed. That's all you have to say. I almost answered. I almost gave him the argument he wanted. Instead, I placed the phone face down. At 11:03, I opened our shared email account, the one we used for household bills and school forms. There were 18,742 unread promotional emails because Daniel had used it for every store discount since 2011. I searched mortgage, payment confirmations, tax escrow notices, insurance updates, then a subject line made me sit straighter. Your home equity line application, additional signature required. The email was from Lake Valley Credit Union. Date, 9 days earlier. I had never applied for a home equity line of credit. I clicked it. Dear Daniel and Claire Whittaker, thank you for beginning your application for a home equity line of credit in the amount of $95,000. The rest blurred for a second, not because I could not read it, but because I understood too quickly. $95,000 against our house, where I had painted Evan's nursery pale green because we did not want to know the sex before he was born. Our house, where I had refinished the dining table after Daniel said buying a new one was wasteful. Our house, where his mother had stayed after knee surgery for 3 months while I slept on the sofa so she could have the main floor guest room. I forwarded the email to my personal account, then I saved it as a PDF. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was Alan Mercer, one of Daniel's co-workers. We were friendly in the way spouses become friendly with office people after years of holiday parties and company picnics. Hi Claire, sorry to bother you. Do you know if Dan is coming to the regional lunch? Friday, he told Megan he's taking personal time, but we still have him listed as presenting. I read that slowly. Daniel had told me he would be in Toledo from Wednesday through Friday. I replied, I'm not sure. When did he start personal time? Alan answered almost immediately, Monday, I think. Everything okay? Monday, the day before the note, the day before he told our son I might be going through something. The day before the calendar entry marked VH. I wrote back, I'm figuring that out, thank you, bye. Late afternoon, I had a folder on my laptop titled Household Review. Inside were screenshots, PDFs, exported bank records, and a photograph of the note. I had not opened the garage folder yet. I was saving it for when my hands stopped wanting to shake at 5:48 p.m. Daniel texted again, Claire, don't make this ugly. There it was, not I'm sorry, not can we talk, not even I handled this badly, don't make this ugly, as if ugliness began with the person who named it. I picked up the red pen and looked at the note again. Nice try. Then I noticed something I had missed the night before. On the back of the paper, pressed faintly through from whatever page had been above it, were indented marks, not writing in ink, impressions. I tilted the paper under the kitchen light. A few words emerged backward and broken. Marigold Court, transfer after departure, C sign, my breath caught, C sign, Claire sign. That was when I finally opened the garage folder. The garage smelled faintly of sawdust, motor oil, and the cedar blocks Daniel bought every spring because he believed mice respected effort. The house folder sat where I had left it, half an inch forward, such a small betrayal of placement, but marriage teaches you the language of objects. A moved folder, a missing razor, a note left too neatly under a sugar bowl. I carried the folder to the kitchen table and set it beside Daniel's command. Inside were the expected papers, mortgage statements, property tax assessments, homeowners insurance, receipts from the roof repair in 2019. Then I found the photocopies, not originals, copies, our deed, our mortgage payoff estimate, a recent valuation from an online real estate site, a blank-looking form with a title that made my scalp tighten, spousal consent and acknowledgement across the top corner. Someone had written in Daniel's handwriting, "Need her signature before move, not divorce, not separation, move." I photographed every page, then I put the folder back exactly as I found it at 6:22 p.m. Daniel called again. This time, I answered. "Claire," he said, and the way he exhaled my name told me he had expected voicemail. Finally, "Daniel," a pause. "You saw the note?" "Yes." "You didn't call?" "No." Another pause, sharper this time. "I thought you'd want to talk about it. You told me to pack my things and get out." That didn't sound like an invitation to talk. He made a sound of frustration. The old familiar one that used to make me rush to soften the room. "Don't do that," he said. "Do what?" "Act like you're some victim. We both know things haven't been good." There it was, the opening line of a story he had already rehearsed. I walked to the sink and looked out at our backyard. The maple tree Evan used to climb stood bare-branched against the grey evening. A swing hook still hung from one limb, though the swing itself had been gone for years. "Where are you?" I asked. "At the Fairfield in Toledo." He lied so smoothly I almost admired the practice behind it. "Toledo," I repeated. "Yes, I told you I had contractor meetings." "You did. I needed space. After I get back, we'll discuss next steps." "Next steps," I said. "Claire, please don't make me say everything over the phone. You left a note." He ignored that. "I think it would be better if you stayed with your sister for a while. My sister lives in Arizona." "Then a hotel, or Maureen, I don't know, somewhere." "This tension isn't healthy." "For whom?" he sighed. "For either of us." It was almost elegant. The way he tried to make evictions sound like wellness. I let 3 seconds pass. "Are you alone?" I asked. His answer came half a beat too late. "Yes." In the background, I heard a woman's laugh, not loud, not close. But there, Daniel cleared his throat. "That's the TV, of course. You're being strange. I'm tired." "Then pack a bag and get some rest somewhere else." I looked at the sugar bowl holding down his note. "No," I said. Silence. "What?" "No, Claire, this is my house too. I'm not leaving it because you wrote a sentence." His voice changed then. The annoyance thinned, and something colder moved underneath. "We can do this the hard way if you want." I wrote that down while he was still breathing into the phone. "Is that what you want?" I asked. "I want peace." "No, Daniel, you want compliance." He did not answer. "I'll talk to you when you come home from Toledo," I said, and ended the call before he could correct the lie. My heart did not pound until after I hung up. During the call, I had felt strangely precise, as if each word were a cup I needed to carry without spilling. At 7:05, I drove to Birch and Vine. I told myself I was not going inside. I only wanted to see whether Daniel's car was there. It was parked near the back, under a maple tree strung with white lights. A woman in a cream coat stood beside it, one hand resting on the passenger door. She had dark blonde hair cut to her shoulders, shiny in the expensive way hair gets when someone has both time and urgency. Daniel stood in front of her, leaning close. I recognized her slowly, then all at once. Vanessa Hale, not Hale. When I knew her, Vanessa Price back then, Daniel's college girlfriend, the woman whose name had surfaced 3 times in our early marriage and then disappeared as if adulthood had buried her. She had come to our wedding, worn green, kissed Daniel too close to the mouth during the receiving line, and told me I was lucky to get the steady version. I had disliked her for exactly 1 afternoon, then decided I was being insecure. Women are often encouraged to call their instincts insecurity when those instincts threaten someone else's comfort. Vanessa reached into her purse and took out a key ring. My stomach dropped. There, hanging from a brass circle, was a key with a blue plastic cap. Our back door key had a blue plastic cap. Daniel took it from her, kissed her forehead, and said something that made her smile. I took photos through my windshield, not dramatic ones, not perfect, but clear enough to show Daniel's car, Daniel's face, Vanessa's hand holding the key. Then I drove away before anger could turn me careless. At home, I checked the key hook by the mudroom. My key was there. Daniel's key was gone. Of course, the spare was gone too, the spare we kept behind the little ceramic house magnet that said "Home is where your people are." I almost smashed it. Instead, I removed the magnet, photographed the empty hook, and put the magnet in a drawer. That night, Daniel texted at 10:46, I don't want to fight. I just need you to be reasonable. I typed about what. His reply came fast about accepting that this marriage is over. I looked at the words for a long time. Then another message appeared and about the house. We need to be practical. There it was, not love, not grief, not even guilt. The house. The next morning, I called Lake Valley Credit Union from my office parking lot. I did not use the number in the email. I looked up the credit union's official website, found the main branch number, and asked to speak with someone in home equity lending. A woman named Beth came on the line. With a voice trained to sound calm around other people's money. How can I help you today? My name is Claire Whitaker. I received an email about a home equity line application in my name. I didn't apply for it. The professional warmth left her voice just enough for me to hear concern underneath. Let me verify your identity first. I answered questions: address, last 4 digits, date of birth, mortgage payment amount. The ordinary facts of a life suddenly turned into gatekeepers. Beth placed me on a brief hold. I sat in my Subaru with the heater blowing against my knees and watched students cross the community college parking lot with backpacks, coffees, and the beautiful carelessness of people whose mortgages were still theoretical. Beth returned. Mrs. Whitaker, there is an incomplete application associated with your property. It was initiated online 9 days ago. Initiated by whom? I can't disclose all access details over the phone, but both spouses are listed as applicants. We are still missing final consent from you. I did not consent. I understand. No, I said, firmer. Please mark the file as disputed. I am telling you clearly that I did not initiate this application and I do not authorize it. Beth's keyboard clicked. I've added a note. I would also recommend you visit a branch with identification and consider placing a verbal password on your accounts if you haven't already. Can you tell me the amount? $95,000, even though I already knew. Hearing a stranger say it made the number heavier. And the purpose listed. Another pause. Home improvement and debt consolidation. Debt consolidation. We had no debt beyond the mortgage, 1 car payment, and a small credit card balance I paid monthly. Daniel had debt. Or Vanessa did, maybe both. I thanked Beth and drove to work because ordinary life does not stop for betrayal. I spent the morning helping a mother complete a FAFSA correction while wondering whether my husband had tried to borrow nearly 6 figures against our home to finance another woman's rescue. At lunch, I shut my office door and pulled up our county property records. The deed was still in both names. That gave me my first full breath of the day, but when I searched recent document activity, I found a pending inquiry attached to our parcel number, not a transfer, not yet, a title company request requested by Northgate Title Services. Date: 12 days earlier. I had never heard of Northgate. I printed the page and put it in my bag at 3:30. I left work early and went to a Lake Valley branch. Beth was not there, but a branch manager named Erica met with me. In a glass office decorated with a framed print of a lighthouse, I showed my ID. I repeated that I disputed the application. I asked for all future contact to require in-person verification or direct confirmation through my personal phone number. Erica listened carefully. Mrs. Whitaker, I can't give legal advice, but you're doing the right thing by documenting everything. Was anything signed? She turned her screen slightly away, not secretively, but professionally. There is an uploaded acknowledgement form. It appears to contain your name. My throat tightened. I didn't sign anything. I understand. Because you're disputing it, the application will be paused pending review. Can I see the signature? She hesitated. Not printed from here, but I can show you the portion associated with your authorization. She turned the monitor. The signature looked like mine if viewed by someone who had never watched me sign a birthday card. C. Whitaker, too round, too slow. My real signature had a hard slash through the W because I had learned cursive from a nun who believed weak handwriting indicated weak character. That is not mine, I said. Erica nodded once. I'll note that. I asked for a confirmation letter that the application was disputed. She printed one. I folded it into my folder with both hands before leaving. I opened a personal checking account in my name only. I did not move marital funds into it. I deposited $200 from my emergency cash envelope and my next paycheck. Information: I was not trying to hide money. I was trying to make sure Daniel could not make me unable to buy groceries if he got angry. There is a difference. On the way home, I stopped at a locksmith by 6:00 p.m. A man named Pete was replacing the locks on the back door and garage entry. I showed him my driver's license and a utility bill. He asked no questions, which made me like him immensely. Daniel arrived at 7:18. I watched from the upstairs window as his car pulled into the driveway. He sat inside for almost a full minute before getting out. When he tried the back door, the new lock held. He stood very still. Then my phone rang. "Did you change the locks?" he demanded. "Yes, you can't lock me out of my own house. You left and took the spare key." "I changed locks for security. Your key is on the front porch. You can come in through the front door." "That's insane." "What's insane is giving my house key to Vanessa Hale." The silence that followed was the first honest thing Daniel had given me in days. Then he said, "You followed me." "No, I found what you forgot to hide." He came in through the front door 10 seconds later, red-faced and breathing hard. "What exactly do you think you know?" I stood in the living room, my folder upstairs, my phone recording nothing because Michigan recording laws were not a game I intended to play casually. I would not build my case on illegal shortcuts. "I know you lied about Toledo," I said. "I know about Birch and Vine. I know about the home equity application." His expression changed in layers. Anger first, then calculation, then something close to fear. "That was preliminary," he said. "It had my name on it. We were going to discuss it. After you told me to pack my things and get out." His jaw tightened. "You're being dramatic." "No, I'm being specific." He looked toward the kitchen table. The note still sat under the sugar bowl. His eyes dropped to the red words beneath his "Nice try." For the first time since this began, Daniel looked less like a man ending a marriage and more like a man realizing the door he had pushed open led somewhere he had not expected. Vanessa Hale's shop sat in a strip mall between a nail salon and a tax preparation office that advertised refunds fast in red letters. The sign above her door read Hale House Interiors. Though the window display held only 3 lamps, a chipped console table, and a wreath that still had an autumn ribbon though it was nearly spring, I did not go inside. I parked 2 rows back and watched for 10 minutes, long enough to see no customers enter. I was not there to confront her. I was there because Daniel had said something the night before that would not leave me alone. After I mentioned the home equity application, he had said, "You don't understand what's at stake." Not "I made a mistake." Not "I'm sorry." What's at stake? People say that when they are protecting a plan. I searched public business records from my phone. Hale House Interiors had been registered 3 years earlier. Vanessa Hale, owner, a mailing address on Marigold Court, the same address attached to Daniel's calendar entry. Then I searched court records. There was a divorce filing, Vanessa and Grant Hale, finalized 18 months earlier. There were also 2 small claims judgments against her business, both unpaid. Not enormous amounts, $6,400 to a supplier, $3,200 to a contractor. Enough to show pressure, enough to explain urgency. That afternoon, I visited Ruth Miller next door. Ruth was 71, widowed, and sharper than most security systems. She had watched our neighborhood from behind lace curtains for 15 years and considered it a public service. When she opened the door, she looked at me once and said, "You finally want to talk about the blonde woman." I almost smiled. Was it that obvious? Only to anyone with eyes. She stepped aside. "Come in." Ruth made tea I did not drink and told me what she had seen. Vanessa had come to our house 3 times in the past month. Twice when I was at work, once on a Saturday morning when I was visiting Evan. Daniel let her in through the back door. She stayed about an hour each time. "Did she bring anything?" I asked. "A tape measure once. And those paint fan things." Ruth's mouth tightened. "I thought maybe you were redecorating." "No, I didn't like the way she looked at your porch." "What way?" "Like she was deciding whether to keep the chairs." That sentence did more damage than I expected. Not because of the chairs. They were old wicker chairs from Target. Because I suddenly saw Vanessa not as a woman stealing my husband, but as a woman walking through my life with a clipboard, selecting what would remain after I was removed. Ruth touched my wrist. "I'm sorry, honey." I nodded because words would have cracked before I left. She offered something better than sympathy. "My doorbell camera catches part of your driveway. I don't know if it helps." "It might. I can save the clips. Please." That evening, an email arrived from Ruth with 3 video files attached. There was Vanessa stepping out of Daniel's car, Vanessa carrying fabric samples, Vanessa laughing as Daniel unlocked my back door, all with timestamps: legal, existing, not secret, not stolen. I saved them the next day. Grant Hale called me. I had found his number through his real estate business website and left a careful message. My name is Claire Whitaker. I believe your former wife and my husband are involved in a matter affecting my property. I'm not asking for personal gossip. If you have documentation relevant to financial or property plans, I would appreciate a conversation. I did not expect him to call back. He did. Grant's voice was dry and tired. I wondered when she'd start using someone else's house as a ladder. We met at a coffee shop near the highway. He was tall, grey-haired, and carried a folder like a man who had learned too late that charm should come with receipts. I don't care who Vanessa dates, he said after we sat, but if Daniel Whitaker is married to you, you should know she's been telling people she's moving into a colonial in Brookmere before summer. Brookmere was our subdivision. I felt heat rise behind my eyes. People, her sister, a supplier, me, once. When she wanted me to know she'd landed on her feet, he opened the folder and slid out printed emails. I can't give you anything from her private accounts. These are messages she sent to me. My attorney told me I'm allowed to share communications I received. I appreciated that he had checked. The first email was bitter, mostly about alimony and furniture. The second made my fingers tighten. You'll see, Grant, Daniel knows what loyalty means. Claire has had that house long enough. Once she leaves, we can finally build something that doesn't involve me begging men who failed me. Claire has had that house long enough. Not Daniel. Claire, as if my marriage, my payments, my repairs, my sleepless nights with a feverish child, my years managing every family crisis had been an unfair occupation. Another email, sent 2 weeks earlier, read, he says she'll fold if he pushes hard. She hates scenes. Once she's out, paperwork gets easier. Paperwork gets easier. I looked up at Grant. Why are you helping me? He stared into his coffee. Because I didn't document enough when I should have. Don't make that mistake. I believed him not because he seemed noble. He seemed bruised and slightly ashamed, which was more convincing that night. I checked Evan's college savings account. It was a 529 plan. Mostly funded by me, my parents before they died, and small birthday contributions over the years. Daniel had always called it college money in a vague voice. As if tuition were an unfortunate weather pattern. There was no withdrawal, but there was a failed login attempt 2 days earlier. From an IP location near Marigold Court, I sat in my office chair until the screen dimmed. Then I turned the screen back on and changed every password I could think of: banking, email, insurance, utilities, college account, my personal phone plan, cloud storage, social media. At 11:30 p.m., Daniel knocked on the bedroom door. We were sleeping in separate rooms now. Or rather, I was sleeping. Daniel was staying elsewhere and appearing when it suited him, like a landlord inspecting damage. Claire, he said, we need to stop this before it gets worse. I stood on the other side of the door. It already got worse. You're turning this into something ugly. No, I said, I'm finding out what it already was. He did not answer. Through the door, I heard him breathing. Then he said, very softly, you shouldn't have talked to Grant. My hand tightened around the doorknob. I had not told anyone I talked to Grant. By Friday morning, Daniel had stopped pretending he was in control of his temper. He still tried to sound reasonable in texts, because texts could be shown to other people. I think we should sit down like adults. You're escalating unnecessarily. My mother is very upset by what you're doing. That last one almost made me laugh. Patricia had accepted my checks, my errands, my casseroles, my rides to appointments, and my patience for more than 2 decades. If she was upset now, it was likely because Daniel had told her the woman holding the practical pieces of her life had developed a spine at an inconvenient time. I did not answer Daniel's texts. Instead, I took half a day off work and met Marisol Green, a family attorney recommended by Maureen's cousin. Marisol's office was on the 2nd floor of a brick building downtown. No marble, no intimidation, just clean windows, file cabinets, and a receptionist who offered water like she understood most people arrived dehydrated by crisis. Marisol was in her late 40s, with silver-threaded black hair and reading glasses on a chain. She listened without interrupting as I laid out the note, the disputed loan application, the possible forged signature, the restaurant charges, the title company inquiry, Ruth's camera clips, Grant's emails, and the failed login attempt on Evan's college account. When I finished, she did not gasp or call Daniel evil. That helped. Drama from professionals can feel satisfying for 5 seconds and terrifying after that. What are your goals? She asked. The question unsettled me. I want to know what is done. That's a step, not a goal. I looked down at my hands. I want to stay in my house until a court or agreement says otherwise. I want to protect Evan's college money. I want the home equity. Applications stopped. I want to know whether my signature was forged. I want whatever marital money he moved accounted for, and I do not want to be bullied into leaving. Marisol nodded. Those are goals. She explained what she could do and what she could not. She could file for divorce if I chose. She could send a preservation letter instructing Daniel not to destroy financial records. She could request documentation through proper legal channels. She could refer me to someone for handwriting review if needed. She could advise me not to sign anything without counsel. She could not magically freeze every part of Daniel's life because I was hurt. I don't want magic, I said. I want leverage that stands up. Her eyes warmed slightly. Good. Then keep doing what you're doing. Document. Don't threaten. Don't record unless you are absolutely sure it's lawful. Don't move out unless we discuss the implications. Don't empty accounts. Don't block him from access to necessary marital information. But protect your personal passwords immediately. I already changed them. Good. I showed her the note. She read Daniel's sentence. Then my 2 words for the first time. She smiled. Mrs. Whitaker, I can't put this in a pleading, but I understand the impulse. Claire, I said. Claire, then. By the time I left, I had not filed for divorce yet. That surprises people in stories like this. They expect the wronged woman to march from betrayal straight to courthouse victory. But real decisions carry weight. Filing meant money, exposure, pain for Evan, a process that would take months, maybe longer. It meant accepting that the marriage was not sick but already dead, and that Daniel had been arranging the funeral behind my back. I sat in my car outside Marisol's office for 12 minutes before starting the engine. Then I called Evan. He answered on the 4th ring. Breathless. Mom, are you alone? Yeah, I'm between classes. What's going on? I told him enough. Not everything. Your father and I are having serious problems. I'm safe. You're not responsible for fixing anything. If he contacts you about me being unstable or unreasonable, I want you to remember there are adult issues here that you don't have all the information about. Evan was quiet. Is Dad cheating? The directness hurt. I believe he has been involved with someone else. Vanessa. I closed my eyes. How do you know that name? He mentioned her once at Thanksgiving. Grandma made a face. I thought it was an old family thing. So Patricia knew. Another piece clicked into place. Listen to me, I said. Your college account is safe. I'm making sure it stays that way. Why would it not be safe? I hated Daniel most in that moment, not for betraying me, but for making me introduce our son to questions he should not have had to ask, because when people panic, they sometimes reach for money that isn't theirs to reach for. Evan swore softly. I want to come home. No, go to class, eat something that isn't vending machine food. Let me handle the first part. You always handle everything. It was not an accusation. It was worse. It was grief. I know, I said. That's one thing I'm changing. That evening, I met Nina Patel, a certified financial planner I had once helped with her daughter's scholarship appeal. She reviewed the account summaries I brought and helped me make a clean list of assets, liabilities, account numbers, and questions for Marisol. This is not about revenge, Nina said. It's about visibility. Visibility, yes, Daniel had counted on. Shadows, emotional shadows, financial shadows, the shadowy politeness that tells women not to inspect too closely because mistrust is unattractive. I went home with copies in a locked tote bag and found Daniel sitting on the porch. He looked tired, handsome still, though I disliked noticing it. Betrayal does not erase muscle memory. His hair was silver at the temples. His coat collar was turned up against the cold. He looked like a man waiting for his wife to come home, which was exactly the costume he wanted to wear. Can we talk? He asked. On the porch, he glanced toward the door. It's freezing. Then be brief. His mouth tightened. Mom wants us all to have dinner Sunday. No, she's worried. About me. About the family. The family was not her concern when Vanessa was measuring my rooms. His eyes flickered. Ruth talks too much. Ruth tells the truth. Try it sometime. He stood. You think you're clever? No, I think I'm late. That landed. I saw it. Then he softened his voice. Claire, I don't want to hurt you. You left a note telling me to get out of my home. I was angry. You applied for a loan with my name on it. I was going to explain. You gave Vanessa a key. His face hardened again. She needed to see the space. The space, not our home, the space. I opened the door. We're done for tonight. Sunday dinner, he said quickly. Come, we can settle this privately. Privately, with his mother, probably with papers, possibly with Vanessa waiting somewhere nearby. I looked at him. I'll come. Relief crossed his face before he could hide it. But I'm not signing anything. The relief vanished. That was when I knew there would be papers. Daniel spent Saturday rebuilding himself into a wronged husband. I saw the work happen in real time at 8:12 a.m. Patricia called. I let it go to voicemail. Her message arrived 3 minutes later, trembling with practiced injury. Claire, this has gone far enough. Daniel is devastated. Whatever problems you two have. Marriage is not something you punish a man for struggling in. We need to sit down as a family. You have always been such a reasonable woman. Don't let bitterness change you. I saved the voicemail at 9:30. Daniel emailed me a document titled Temporary Separation Understanding. He did not send it from his personal account, he sent it from his work email. Perhaps thinking the company signature line would make it look official. The document was not drafted by an attorney. I could tell within 5 seconds. Too many capitalized words, too much emotional language, phrases like voluntary cooling off period and mutual desire for reduced conflict. The practical terms were less soft. Claire to reside outside the marital home for a minimum of 90 days. Daniel to remain in the property to maintain stability. Both parties agree to cooperate with financial restructuring. Both parties agree not to interfere with potential refinancing, equity access, or sale. I read it twice, then I forwarded it to Marisol. Her reply came an hour later. Do not sign. Do not verbally agree. Bring printed copy Sunday if you attend dinner. I recommend we file Monday. There it was, the line I had been approaching. I wrote back, prepare the filing. My finger hovered over send longer than I expected, then I pressed it. There was no music, no cinematic swell, just the small sound of a key clicking and the ordinary terror of choosing reality. At noon, I went to the grocery store because life remains rude enough to require milk while your marriage collapses. In the cereal aisle, I ran into Alan's wife, Megan. She looked uncomfortable before she even said hello. Claire, hi, Megan. I've been meaning to call. People say that when they have been deciding whether courage is worth the inconvenience. About Daniel, I asked. Her cheeks flushed. Alan said not to get involved, but I'd want someone to tell me. I waited. At the company dinner in January, Daniel brought a woman. He introduced her as a design consultant helping with a personal project. I thought maybe you knew. Vanessa, what kind of personal project? Megan looked down at her cart. A house transition. That was the phrase. A house transition. I almost laughed. In the cereal aisle. Not an affair, not a theft, a transition. Men like Daniel loved phrases that sounded neutral enough to hide harm. Thank you, I said. I'm sorry, I am too. By late afternoon, I had printed everything for Sunday dinner, not to dump wildly across Patricia's table. I was not interested in spectacle. I organized the evidence in order: the note, Daniel's Toledo lie and Alan's message, Birch and Vine charges, Ruth's doorbell stills, home equity application email, credit union dispute letter, title company inquiry, Grant's emails from Vanessa, temporary separation understanding. I placed each set in a labeled folder. That evening, Daniel came by to pick up more clothes. I stayed in the kitchen while he went upstairs. When he returned, he carried 2 suits, a duffel bag, and the expression of a man who wanted to be wounded but could not resist being angry. You changed the bedroom lock too. I changed the closet lock where my personal documents are stored. You're acting paranoid. I'm responding to events. He dropped the duffel by the door. Vanessa has nothing to do with the financial side. I looked at him. I didn't mention Vanessa. His jaw moved once. She's been through hell. Grant ruined her credit, destroyed her confidence, left her with nothing. Grant showed me emails. Daniel's eyes sharpened. He had no right. He had every right to share messages sent to him. You don't know what you're doing. Then why are you so nervous? He stepped closer, then stopped himself for a second. I saw the old Daniel, not the young man I married, but the man who knew exactly how far to move into my space before I would step back. I did not step back. He noticed. Sunday, he said. Mom's house, 6. Will Vanessa be there? No. The answer came too quickly. Good, I said. Then she won't mind if I mention her. Claire. I picked up the note from the kitchen table and held it out. You forgot this. He stared at it. Keep it, he said. I intend to. His eyes dropped to my read words, "Nice try." He flinched almost invisibly, but I saw it after he left. I went upstairs to check the closet lock, nothing disturbed. Then I looked through the last stack of papers from the garage folder. That was where I found the yellow legal pad page, not a formal document, not even hidden well, torn from the back of a pad Daniel used for work calls. At the top, he had written, "Order, push C out, establish separation, HELOC, pay V debt, list, or refinance, Mom." Under that, in smaller handwriting, "Make her leave first, easier if she looks unstable." I sat on the bedroom floor with the paper in my lap for days. I had been collecting proof of what Daniel did. This was proof of what he intended. I spent Sunday morning making pancakes. That may sound absurd, but Evan came home unexpectedly at 9:20 with laundry, dark circles, and a look on his face that said he had driven across the state because sitting still had become impossible. He stood in the doorway holding his backpack like a child, though he was 6 feet tall. "I know you told me not to come." "I did, I came anyway." I hugged him then, hard enough that he dropped the backpack. For an hour, I let him be my son before I told him more. I fed him pancakes at the kitchen island. He ate 4 and pretended he was not watching the note under the sugar bowl. Finally, he pointed at it. "Is that Dad's?" "Yes." "And you wrote that?" "Yes." He read my words and gave a small, startled laugh. Then his face crumpled. "I'm sorry," he said. "You did nothing. I should have noticed. You're 19. Your job is not to audit your father's character." He wiped his face with the heel of his hand. Embarrassed by his own tears, I told him the basics: the affair, the loan application, the attempt to make me leave, the need for documents. I did not show him everything, but I showed him enough to understand that this was not a misunderstanding. When I mentioned the failed login attempt on his college account, he went very still. He tried to take school money. I don't know that it was him. I know someone tried from near Vanessa's address. His mouth hardened in a way that reminded me of Daniel, and I hated that too. "I don't want his help. Your education will not depend on his honesty. I promise you that." At noon, Evan left to return to campus after making me swear I would call if Daniel showed up angry. I watched his car disappear and felt the cost of what Daniel had done spread into places no settlement could repair. At 2:00, I met Nina Patel again. She had reviewed the financial records I sent. The $42,600 in transfers, she said, went out in pieces, some to a personal account ending in 4418, some to payments that look like business vendors but aren't connected to Daniel's employer, Vanessa's business. Possibly, one Perry matches a supplier listed in her small claims judgment. I stared at the spreadsheet. He used our money to pay her debts. Some of it appears that way, and the HELOC would have paid the rest. It could have. The stated purpose was debt consolidation. Her debt. Nina did not soften it. Likely, the numbers arranged themselves into a story. Daniel had not simply fallen in love or lust or whatever word he preferred because affair sounded too ordinary. He had found Vanessa in financial trouble. He had cast himself as rescuer, but rescuing her required resources he did not personally have without disturbing his own comfort. So he reached for mine, my home equity, my joint account, my son's college plan, my reputation as the unstable wife who needed to leave before grown-up decisions could be made. The betrayal was not bigger because of the money, it was bigger because he had needed me diminished for the plan to work. At 3:30, Grant emailed one more document. "Claire, I found this in old divorce discovery." Vanessa listed projected income from future household consolidation in a note to her attorney. "It may be nothing, but the date is recent enough that you should see it." Attached was a scanned page. Vanessa had written, "Daniel says C will resist, but she hates embarrassment. Use family pressure. P says she'll help P. Patricia." I sat back. There are moments when anger becomes too clean to burn. It sharpens instead. Patricia had not merely believed Daniel. She had helped, not by signing forms, perhaps, not by making transfers, but by knowing the plan and agreeing to pressure me into leaving my home. At 4:10, Marisol called. I reviewed the legal pad page. She said, "Keep the originals secure, bring copies tonight, do not hand originals to anyone. If they try to take anything, leave." "I'm still going. I assumed you would." "Is that foolish?" "It's risky. But if you keep control of your documents and your exit, it may clarify positions. I'll be available by phone. I don't want you to fight this for me." "I won't, but I can confirm what's already been filed." "Filed, yes. Petition is ready for submission first thing Monday. Preservation letter is drafted. Credit union dispute will be referenced. I looked at the kitchen table, Daniel's note, my words. Then tonight is not a negotiation, I said. What is it? A correction. At 5:35, I dressed for Patricia's dinner, not armor, not a power suit, black slacks, cream sweater, low heels, pearl earrings my mother had left me. I put my documents in a structured tote bag and placed my phone, keys, and wallet in the outer pocket so I would not have to dig if I needed to leave quickly before walking out. I stood in my kitchen for days. Daniel's note had occupied the center of the table like a dare. I picked it up and placed it in the first folder. Then I left the sugar bowl alone. The table looked strangely bare without the note, not empty, ready. Patricia's house smelled of pot roast and furniture polish, the official scent of Whittaker family judgment. She opened the door wearing pearls and a cardigan the color of butter. Her face arranged itself into sorrow before she hugged me. Claire, she said, holding me too tightly, we're going to fix this. I stepped back. That depends on what you think is broken. Her eyes flickered. Robert sat in his recliner in the living room, thinner than I remembered, one hand wrapped around a glass of water. He nodded at me, shame already sitting in the lines around his mouth. He knew something, maybe not all, but enough. Daniel stood by the fireplace. Vanessa was not there at first. Daniel wore a blue shirt I had bought him for Christmas. I wondered whether he had chosen it to remind me of old tenderness or because Vanessa liked blue. Thank you for coming, he said. I said I would. Patricia touched my arm. Dinner first. No one thinks clearly hungry. I almost admired the domestic choreography. Feed the woman, soften her, surround her, then slide papers across the table while telling her resistance was ruining everyone's digestion. We sat in the dining room at 6 sharp. 4 place settings, then the doorbell rang. Patricia froze for half a second. Daniel looked down at his plate. Robert closed his eyes. I placed my napkin in my lap. Patricia rose. That must be Vanessa, I said. No one answered. When Vanessa entered the dining room, she wore a camel coat and carried a bottle of wine like a guest invited to a celebration, not the woman waiting outside someone else's marriage with a tape measure. She looked directly at me. Claire, Vanessa, her confidence wavered. When I did not ask why she was there, Patricia fluttered. I thought it might help to have everyone present, everyone involved. I said. Daniel pulled out a chair for Vanessa. She sat. That was useful. It showed me they no longer felt the need to pretend fully. They believed the room belonged to them. Dinner was served. No one tasted it. Daniel began before Patricia could. Claire, this has been painful for all of us. I looked at Vanessa. All of us. Daniel's voice tightened. I know you're angry. But anger doesn't change reality. Our marriage has been over emotionally for a long time. That's your opening. He flushed. I'm trying to be respectful. You told me to pack my things and get out. Vanessa leaned forward. Sometimes a clean break is kinder. I turned to her, was measuring my living room part of the kindness. Her mouth closed. Patricia set down her fork. We are not here to attack each other. No, I said. You're here to make me sign something. Daniel reached beside his chair and lifted a folder. There it was. He placed it on the table between us. A temporary agreement, he said. Nothing final, just a way to reduce conflict while we sort out the house and finances. I did not touch it. Read the main term aloud. Claire, read it. His jaw tightened. Vanessa looked annoyed now. She had expected tears, not procedure. Daniel opened the folder. You would agree to stay elsewhere for 90 days, while you remain in the house, to maintain stability. Whose stability? Our properties. I smiled then, not because anything was funny, but because language had become too ridiculous to respect. And after I leave, we discuss refinancing, using the $95,000 home equity line. Patricia inhaled sharply. Robert opened his eyes. Daniel said, that was exploratory. I reached into my tote bag and removed the first folder. No, I said, it was disputed. I placed the credit union letter on the table. Daniel stared at it. Vanessa's face changed. Good, she had not known I had stopped it. The application is paused, I said, because I did not apply for it, and I did not authorize my signature. Patricia's voice trembled. Claire, are you accusing Daniel of forgery? I'm saying the signature is not mine. Daniel pushed back from the table. This is exactly what I mean. You twist everything. I removed the second folder. Birch and Vine, 4 dinners, 2 hotel charges, florist payments, your so-called Toledo trip. Alan confirmed you were on personal leave. Daniel's eyes flashed. You contacted my co-workers. One contacted me. Vanessa looked at him. You said she didn't know about the hotel. Daniel snapped. Not now. The room shifted, small, but real. I opened the third folder and placed Ruth's still images on the table. Vanessa entering my house. Vanessa holding fabric samples. Daniel unlocking the back door. Robert leaned forward. Dan. Daniel said nothing. Patricia whispered. You brought her there. Vanessa recovered first. You two were separated emotionally. Daniel told me Claire understood. I looked at her. Did he also tell you I understood you planned to move in after I was pressured out? Her mouth hardened. You don't know anything about my life. I know you owed suppliers money. I know payments from my joint account align with those debts. I know you wrote to Grant that I had had that house long enough. Vanessa went pale with anger, not fear. Grant had no right to share private pain. He shared emails you sent him. Daniel stood. That's enough. No, I said. Now it's enough. I took out the yellow legal pad copy. I did not hand it to him. I read from it. Push C out, establish separation, HELOC, pay V debt, list or refinance. Make her leave first, easier if she looks unstable. Patricia covered her mouth. Robert's voice came out rough. Daniel, is that yours? Daniel stared at the page for once. He did not deny fast enough. Vanessa turned on him. You wrote it down, and there it was, the crack inside there. Partnership, not that isn't true, not how could you. You wrote it down. Daniel saw the mistake at the same time I did. He reached for my folder. I pulled it back. Don't. His hand froze. You're destroying this family, he said. I looked around the table at Patricia, who had helped because she thought obedience was a daughter-in-law's duty, at Robert, who had stayed silent until silence became complicity, at Vanessa, who wanted a life already warmed by another woman's labor, at Daniel, who believed my fear of embarrassment would outlive my self-respect. Then I said the only sentence I had come to say, you mistook my patience for permission. No one spoke. I turned to Patricia. As of tonight, I will no longer pay your monthly expenses. Daniel can handle them. Her face collapsed. Claire, no. I turned to Daniel. Marisol Green will contact you Monday. The home equity application is disputed. The accounts are being reviewed. If any marital records disappear, my attorney already has copies. Daniel's voice dropped. You filed, Monday morning. You can't just. I can. Vanessa stood, grabbing her coat. This is between you two. I looked at the papers on the table. No, you made sure it wasn't. She left before dessert. Daniel followed her into the hall, then stopped when Robert spoke. Let her go, Dan. Daniel turned back, stunned. Robert looked older than I had ever seen him. You brought this into your mother's house. You did that. Daniel's face twisted. Dad, no. That was all Robert said, but for him, it was a revolution, I gathered. My folders. Daniel's voice changed again, soft and frightened. Claire, wait, please. I paused at the doorway. He looked at me as if finally seeing not his wife, not his obstacle, not his household manager, but the person who had held the center of his life together while he mistook center for background. We can slow down, he said. We can talk. I thought of the note, pack your things and get out. Then I thought of my red pen, nice try. No, I said, now you can pack. Daniel did not pack that night. Men like Daniel rarely obey the first instruction they cannot control. Instead, he called, texted, emailed, sent one message through Evan, which earned him the first truly furious response our son had ever sent his father. Do not use me to get to Mom. Evan showed me the screenshot 2 days later with shaking hands. I hated sending it, he said. I know, but I meant it. I know that too. Marisol filed the divorce petition Monday morning. Daniel was served at his office Tuesday afternoon, which he later called humiliating, as if humiliation were an event delivered by courier rather than a consequence delivered by fact. The preservation letter went out the same day. It instructed him not to destroy, conceal, transfer, or alter financial records, electronic communications, property documents, or account information relevant to the marriage. Lake Valley Credit Union closed the HELOC application after reviewing my dispute. They did not declare Daniel guilty of anything in language dramatic enough for a story. Real institutions rarely do. They simply declined to proceed and referred the signature concern to their internal fraud review. That was enough to stop the loan. Nina helped trace $42,600 in transfers. Not every dollar was recoverable immediately, but the pattern was clear enough for Marisol to use in negotiations. Payments had gone to Vanessa's suppliers, her overdue commercial lease, and one credit card in Daniel's name that had somehow funded consulting expenses. No one could justify. Daniel's employer became involved after Alan, then Megan, then an accounting assistant provided information about questionable reimbursements. Again, there was no movie-style arrest in a parking lot. There was a meeting, then administrative leave. Then Daniel's resignation 3 weeks later, announced in a company email that said he was pursuing personal opportunities. Personal opportunities can do a lot of work when shame needs a suit. Vanessa's shop closed by May Grant told me this in a brief email, not with satisfaction, but with the weary tone of a man watching a predictable storm reach another town. Vanessa had tried to claim Daniel promised investment funds. Daniel denied promising anything formal. Their loyalty lasted exactly as long as the money did. Patricia called me 11 times the first month. I answered once. Claire, she said, crying, I didn't understand all of it. You understood enough to help them pressure me. I thought you would be better off stepping away for a while. Daniel said you were becoming difficult about my home. He's my son. I know, that was always the problem. She asked whether I would still cover her prescriptions until Daniel got settled. No, the silence after that was almost peaceful. After all these years, she whispered. Yes. I said, after all these years. Robert sent a letter, not a text. A letter, written in blocky handwriting on plain paper. Claire, I should have spoken sooner. I saw more than I admitted. I let Patricia and Daniel tell me it wasn't my place. That was cowardice. I am sorry. I will not ask you to forgive me. I only want you to know I told Daniel the house was never his to steal from you, Robert. I kept the letter not because it healed anything, but because accountability deserves a record too. Daniel tried several versions of regret. Version 1. Anger, you're ruining me. Version 2. Minimization, nothing actually happened with the loan. Version 3. Romance, I miss my wife. Version 4. Spiritual awakening, delivered after one meeting with a counselor. I see now that I confused fear with love. I did not respond to most of it. When mediation began, he looked thinner, his hair had grown uneven at the back, which meant Vanessa was no longer reminding him to book appointments. He sat across from me in a conference room with beige walls and a pitcher of water sweating onto a coaster. For 26 years, I had anticipated his needs in mediation. I let him pour his own water. The settlement took months. We sold neither the truth nor the house cheaply. The final agreement accounted for the disputed transfers. Daniel accepted responsibility for specific debts tied to his separate spending and reimbursement issues. The remaining marital assets were divided through negotiation, not fantasy. I kept the house by refinancing in my name with help from my income, a manageable settlement offset, and the fact that Daniel's financial behavior had weakened his bargaining position. It was not effortless. The refinance required paperwork, appraisal, income verification, and 3 nights when I cried from exhaustion because freedom has closing costs. But I kept the house. Evan's college account remained untouched. Daniel was ordered to contribute through a structured arrangement, though I prepared myself not to rely on him without documentation. Evan chose to see his father only in short, public meetings for a while. That might change, he told me. It can. I said, are you mad if it does? No, your relationship with him is yours, just don't let him make you responsible for his loneliness. Daniel asked to meet me alone after the second mediation session. Marisol advised against it, then said if I chose to, we should meet in the building lobby. I agreed. Daniel stood near the elevators, hands in his coat pockets. I lost my job, he said. I heard, Vanessa's gone. I assumed. He flinched. I deserved that. I did not comfort him. He looked at me for a long time. I don't know who I am without all this. All what? The house, the family, you managing everything. It was the most honest sentence he had spoken, but honesty after damage is not a refund. I hope you figure it out, I said. His eyes filled. Is there any chance, after time, that we could? No, you don't even know what I was going to say. Yes, I do. He looked down. I loved you, Claire. I believe you loved what my love did for you. That hurt him. I saw it. Then I walked to my car without turning the sentence into an apology. The divorce was finalized 11 months after Daniel left the note. By then, the maple tree in the backyard had leaves again. I stood in the courthouse hallway after the final hearing with a copy of the judgment in my hand. No choir sang, no one clapped, the fluorescent lights hummed, and a man near the vending machine argued softly with someone on his phone about parking. Freedom, I learned, often arrives without decoration. Marisol touched my shoulder. You're officially divorced. I waited for grief to knock me down. It did not. Grief had been coming in installments for almost a year, in the kitchen, at the bank, in Evan's face, across mediation tables, in the space where my old future used to sit. What I felt in the courthouse was not joy exactly, it was room to breathe without listening for Daniel's key, room to pay bills without wondering which transaction hid a lie, room to choose a paint color because I liked it, not because another woman had measured the wall. The house became mine legally in July. I refinanced at a rate that made me wince, signed documents until my hand cramped, and walked out of the title office with a folder pressed to my chest. The first thing I changed was the kitchen. Not because Vanessa had wanted it, because I had wanted to change it for 8 years. Daniel always said new cabinets were unnecessary, that painting them would open a can of worms, that contractors were unreliable, that we should wait until the market improved, until Evan graduated, until his bonus came, until his mother's situation settled, until some imaginary day when my preferences would become convenient. I did not remodel dramatically. I painted the cabinets soft blue, replaced the cracked laminate counter with butcher block, bought 2 stools for the island, hung 3 small framed prints from a local artist. On the first morning after the work was done, I made coffee and sat at the kitchen table with no note under the sugar bowl. The sugar bowl had survived for a while. I considered throwing it away. Then I realized Daniel did not own every object he had touched. He did not get to poison blue ceramic because he once used it as a paperweight for cruelty, so I kept it. I filled it with sugar cubes, though I rarely used them. Evan came home that weekend and stopped in the doorway. It looks different. It is different. He walked around the kitchen, touching the counter, opening one cabinet like a child checking whether change was real. I like it, he said. Me too. He stayed for dinner. We made tacos badly, laughed when the shells broke, and did not mention Daniel until dishes were done. Dad asked if I'd come to his apartment next month. Evan said, "How do you feel about that?" Nervous, but maybe ready. Then meet him. Drive yourself. Leave when you want. He nodded. Do you hate him? I looked at the backyard where dusk had gathered under the maple tree. No, I said, but I don't protect him from himself anymore. Evan sat with that. I'm proud of you, he said quietly. No award, no settlement, no apology from Daniel meant as much as that sentence from my son. Patricia never fully forgave me for stopping the money. That was fine. Her forgiveness had always required my usefulness. Robert called twice a year after that. Short calls, awkward, but sincere. He never asked for anything. Once, he told me he had started driving himself to the pharmacy. I should have done more for myself years ago, he said. Maybe we both should have. I answered. Vanessa moved to Indiana, according to Grant. She filed bankruptcy. I took no pleasure in it, though I did not mistake that for pity. She had seen another woman's life as available inventory. The fact that she left empty-handed was not tragedy, it was arithmetic. Daniel found another sales job with a smaller company outside Kalamazoo. He rented a 1-bedroom apartment near a highway and sent Evan birthday cards with careful handwriting. He sent me one letter 6 months after the divorce. Claire, I know I can't undo what I did. I keep thinking about that note. I don't know who I thought I was when I wrote it. I was scared and selfish and convinced you would always be there even if I treated you like a problem. I am sorry. If someday you would let me apologize in person, I would be grateful. Daniel. I read it once, then I placed it in the same file as the original note, Grant's emails, the credit union dispute letter, and the final divorce judgment. Not because I planned to revisit the pain, because records matter. A year after the note, I hosted Thanksgiving, not a large one. Evan came, Maureen came because her sister was traveling, Ruth came with green bean casserole and 3 neighborhood updates before she had taken off her coat. Robert came for dessert after telling Patricia he was going out, which at 79 sounded more rebellious than anything Daniel had ever done. We ate at the dining table I had refinished years earlier. No one performed happiness. That made it better. After dessert, Ruth helped me carry plates to the kitchen. She paused beside the sugar bowl. Still have this? Yes, good, she said. Pretty thing. Not its fault a fool used it badly. I laughed. Later, after everyone left, I opened the file box in my closet. The note was inside a clear sleeve. Pack your things and get out. Beneath it, in red ink, nice try. I no longer felt the old heat when I saw it. The note had once been a weapon, then evidence, then a symbol. Now it was paper. That was the final mercy. I put it back, closed the file box, and returned to the kitchen. The house was quiet. Not staged, not waiting, not full of someone else's plan, mine. I turned off the light and walked upstairs without checking the locks twice. A year later, I no longer measured my life by what Daniel lost. I measured it by what I stopped losing. I stopped losing sleep over accounts I could not see. I stopped losing weekends to people who called obligation love. I stopped losing my voice in rooms where peace meant my silence. The house did not become perfect. The furnace still made strange noises. The porch needed repair. The mortgage was mine now, which meant so was the pressure, but every payment I made bought something Daniel had never understood. Not walls, not status, not victory, a life I chose with my eyes open.